now. Okay, I'm sorry about the late meeting. I'm hereby calling this meeting to order. 10:16. Okay, so you're seeing the audience here. I'm going to switch to my screen so I can show us the agenda. So I'm going to click this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. And then I have to pull up the agenda. Should have done this earlier. What? Oh, this one. Yeah. Okay. I wanted to bring it up here. Democrats.org/agenda. Yeah, you're right. But it's nice about using Microsoft Edge is that you can write on it. So I'm going to zoom it up a little bit and go to an add notes mode here and get started. Okay, so I've done the call to order. It's 10:16. Does this work? Roll call.
Let's do it. We'll start with District 51. Corey Rosette. Lynn Sager. Betty Vega. Bill South. Jesse Palmer. Malia Britton. Melissa Von Boris. Benjamin Gates. Mark Early. Mike Golia. Here.
Good to see.
Eric Schrager. Here. Alicia Mulafidi. Richard Oshiro. Here. Daniel Back. Trish LaChica. Lydia Bond. Teal Cook. Lorna Strand.
She's here.
Chase Shigemasa.
He resigned. He moved, so he had to resign.
You appointed Radiant Courtyard.
No, I can't appoint district chair. Or district chair. Right?
This is the region chair, but the region chair.
District chair, you have to.
Vice chair succeeds.
Yeah. First, if there's a vice chair, then nothing. Well, then the vice chair can resign and call an election, or maybe the vice chair could pseudo run the election and then or something. They could very clear in our bylaws. I've been through this. It's state bylaws because it's district chair. So okay, so yeah, and I've been discussing that with Ben Parker. We started a conversation on that. So, all right, Ben.
Debbie Shemika.
I'm here for Debbie Shemika.
Yes.
Ernesto Gana. Ernest Carvalho.
Here.
Susan Young.
Susan.
And Curran. I know Kano.
Here. I'm online.
Kano Arrego.
Present. She called in, yeah.
Morgan Bonnet. Ian Ross. Mark Tom. Here. Janine Jones. Emmanuel. Will Kerr. John Choi. Cynthia Jerry. Nick Kapaski. Natalia Burdick. Absent. Rich Medeiros. Here. Sam Polatasi. Layla Mom.
Here.
Brent Tuyama. Here. Ben Park. Ken Farm.
Here.
Kat Coble.
She's called in. Yeah.
I'm here.
Don Kelper. Hey, he's not here.
I guess.
Alan Burdick.
Here.
Juanita Kawamoto. Aaron Fernandez. Toxin.
Here.
Toxin.
No, talk song is excused.
Daniel Jacob.
Aaron's here.
James Logue here. Dylan Armstrong.
Present.
And Rich Halverson.
Up there.
Hey, welcome.
All right. Okay, great. All right, wonderful. So that takes care of that. Reading. Okay. Did you locate? James has been having technical difficulties. Were you able to obtain the minutes yet? Or are you gonna?
Yeah, I have. I'll have to email them. Can we just?
all right, so let's defer that. Okay,
Just
so
renewed.
let's go into the reports, I guess. Legislative committee report. That would be right here. Okay.
Great, thank you very much, Chair. Okay, on the first page, it indicates the minutes. I've attended 2 neighborhood board minutes on my side. I'm from Kahaluu. And so it's the Kahaluu Neighborhood Board and the Ko'olauloa Neighborhood Board. So I'll submit on that. November 30th in the packet. In the packet, page 2, it indicates OC 2018-11. That is a resolution that we passed at our last convention, urging the United States Navy to retrofit its 20 jet fuel tanks or relocate them to a location away from the aquifer. With regard to this resolution, we will be having a informational briefing here at headquarters on November 30th, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock, and everyone is invited. I encourage everyone's attendance. And we will have 2 guest speakers, and that'll be Ernest Lau and Carol Cox. That's on page 3, Chair. There we go.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
and this notice has been sent out yesterday. Okay. And let's see. Yeah, well, basically with regard to the Red Hill, we've got Ernest Lau, who is with the of the Board of Water Supply, and he's the chief engineer. And his recommendation would be to have double lined stainless steel tanks. However, having sat through the last hearing at the Capitol, it was clear that the U.S. Navy wanted to take the cheapest route possible, which is basically just cutting away where it appears to be fully deteriorated and just patching that like a Band-Aid. Nothing was raised with regards to Manchester, Washington, which has similar underground storage fuel tanks. And what's happening there, the U.S. Navy has agreed to do a full above ground replacement, state-of-the-art tanks. So the equity becomes, why is it in Washington that they get the state-of-the-art, and here we are in the biggest military base in the nation, still stuck with the 1944, I believe, tanks. It was built during World War II. Okay, so please come November 30th, 6 to 8. Okay, next thing, Thursday, December 6th, we have our second meeting for the Legislative Priorities Committee. We've broken it down to 4 committees. We've got chairs that were chosen from the last meeting that we had. There's still openings, and we encourage as many people as possible to please do participate. Last session, I myself submitted 805 testimonies. I don't want to do that again. And I've obviously, with all this help, I won't have to, so thank you very much. But we're still looking for more people who are interested and would like to participate on behalf of the Oahu County Democrats. Now, because of the volume of bills that come through, and we want to analyze every single bill, if possible, our main precedence is solely the bylaws and resolutions, past resolutions as well. So if you don't have specific knowledge or experience in the area, that's fine, as long as we just concentrate on what has been passed at the last state convention, as well as the county convention. Okay, also, so the next meeting for this committee is December 6th, 5 o'clock to 7 o'clock. After that, we're going to have, in conjunction with Americans for Democratic Action, we are going to sponsor a birthday party celebration for Patsy Mink, and we will be showing a free screening of Ahead of the Majority, which is her documentary. So 6 o'clock to 7 o'clock. So come to the Legislative Priorities Committee meeting at 5 to 7, then from 7 to 9, celebrate with us. Bring your own beer and potluck. Okay, next Thursday, December 20th. Again, here we have Puhonua Bioenergy LLC. This is a resolution that was passed at the state convention. And it's basically urging the withdrawal of the support by the PUC. Recently, there's been a hearing on this matter. The last day to submit testimony was on the 21st last week, this past Wednesday. And the committee, Oahu Committee of Legislative Priorities, we submitted 2 testimonies in opposition, basically asking for a environmental assessment and an environmental impact statement. There is a loophole, it appears to be a loophole in the statutes, which indicates that if there is a power plant coming up that does not utilize fossil fuel, but is instead considered renewable energy source, then that operation need not comply with the laws to require an EA or an EIS. And since this is bioenergy, there is no such requirement because it's considered a renewable source, a renewable energy source. So our arguments is that of constitutional. We are relying on the constitutional protection under, let's see, what was that? Excuse me. Article 11, I believe, Section 1.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay, Article 11, Section 1, which is known as the Constitutional Public Trust Doctrine. So we're relying on that. So mahalo that we're not having a constitutional con, because this would be one of those that are at risk. So we can rely on this public trust doctrine as well as a precautionary principle, which goes along with the public trust doctrine, and make those arguments, which we did regarding an EA or an EIS. Okay, because we feel so strongly about Hohulua, I don't know if you may be aware, but this company proposes on releasing 300,000 tons annually of carbon dioxide, as well as 22 tons annually of, I believe it was methane gas, and 11 tons of nitrous oxide annually. In addition, this company proposes on drawing 21 million gallons of water from the Hakalau aquifer daily. In addition, it proposes on using to make steam, biomass is energy through steam, is burning chips. And the chips would come from eucalyptus trees, in which they're proposing on cutting down, removing, chipping 5 acres per day. This is in Hakalau. Okay, so, okay, I feel strongly about this. We don't want this kind of situation to come through. So we're having a hearing on this. We're having Henry Curtis of Life of the Land, who is the strongest opponent. His Life of the Land sued in the Hawaii Supreme Court on this matter. And we're having Lance Collins, also the attorney for Life of the Land. And so that informational briefing will be on December 20th here at headquarters, 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. So please, everyone is welcome. We want to have a good showing. Okay, mahalo. Thank you.
Okay.
Sure. Can I address?
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes.
My name is Burden. I'm chair for District 29, and I'm also, as said, I'm the vice chair for Neighborhood 1. I want to address.
Yeah. Can you just come a little closer? These microphones are pretty good, but if you could just come and talk into one of these. Yeah, that's.
So I want to.
Oh, no, it's this
I
one.
want to address
Here.
two issues here. I want to address the Red Hill issue first of all. So, proposals, and I will propose that we as a Democratic Party agree to these proposals with amendments, that we ask the Navy to completely remove these tanks and sit 100 feet above the most populous aquifer in Hawaii. This aquifer actually is the water, drinking water to over 600,000.
I think if you just set it in front of Alan. That's
on
good.
the island of Oahu. But every single person in Hawaii on Oahu drinks from this water, and every single tourist that comes here drinks from this water. The EPA actually gave the Navy 20 years to fix this problem. The Navy actually said, and they asked me to sit down with them to have coffee. The Navy actually said they cannot fix this problem. They cannot absolutely fix this problem, even if they double haul it. Even though Tank 5 had leaked over 12,500,
27,000
27,000
gallons.
gallons. What they're not telling you is that every single tank has been leaking.
Whoa.
Every single tank. So, and what they're also telling you that there is no measurable amount they can't detect it is because when it leaks, it flows on down. Okay? So it's flowing on down. So they're not actually doing the test at the right place. So we're asking that every single the Democratic Party and every single neighborhood board actually oppose the Navy on this, and that the Navy actually takes out the fuel, because it's jet fuel. We don't need to do it nowadays the way they do it. Take it out, clean these tanks, remove it, and ship it to the mainland. Whatever. That's what we're asking. They absolutely said they cannot do it. Number two, what we're asking. Number two, on another subject, on the Patsy Mink statue. Yeah. So the Patsy Mink statue, if you want to go and check it out, it's there in front of the library. My problem with the Patsy Mink statue is I don't think they did her justice on that. But they want to put the Patsy Mink statue there, right? But now they want to remove our beloved Queen Liliuokalani's statue from where it is. What people don't understand, the statue of Queen Liliuokalani is there for a reason. It's because it was a pathway between the palace and Washington Place, where she was taken every single day from her house arrest and the route to there. It's a significant reason for it being there. They want to move it and put it out of sight. They feel that if they move this statue from where it's at right now, then people will not come there, conglomerate, and pay homage to this statue there where they do all the things at the Aulani Palace. But then they'll have to be forced to go somewhere else. We cannot allow this. And I'm asking that the board actually, the Democratic Party, actually goes ahead and goes against the removal of this. They want to replace it with two other statues, and they want to start putting Obama and everyone else. I have no problem with Obama. My problem with Obama is Obama wouldn't even allow his library to be built in Honolulu, in Hawaii. He chose Chicago over Honolulu. So therefore, even though he was born and raised there and went to school here, he said no to Hawaii as a place to have his library. So why should we be putting his statue where our queen is at? This is our beloved queen. And when you take this statue away, you are doing an offense to all of us Kanaka Maoli.
Okay.
You are disgracing. You are disgracing.
Okay, Ernest. Why don't you write a resolution?
I
That
will
would be
write a
good. Okay,
resolution,
that would be a
I'm
really
just
good way to
saying
do
this,
this. Yeah.
But that we should do this. All right?
Okay.
But thank you for bringing these points up. I appreciate it.
Okay. Yes. Yes, Dylan.
Well, I would address one of Ernest's points, which is that I'm in support as an urban planner of stronger cultural resources and landscape management. And so the point about the statue is very important, right? We're talking about a cultural landscape that may not be obvious to all of us interacting with it, but it tells an important story about our history and who we are and where we are. So in the mindset of not just a statue in isolation, but Iolani Palace, the neighboring monuments and buildings that make the Capital District what it is, I would be fully in support of retaining the statue where it is for the reasons already brought up, and I think that that's an important point. So thank you.
Okay. Well, it's too bad there's not a motion. Thank you for that. Okay. So are we going to stay on topic or
I have a question.
okay. Okay.
Question is, this is OCC,
Yeah.
and the state has their legislative person,
Yeah.
and they have all the caucuses, and they're all doing lobbying. So how are you coordinating so you're not repeating and having too many people at all the time?
Okay. That's a relevant question. Yes. So, yes. Okay.
That is a good question.
Okay. So yes.
However, I have no problems with repetitive testimony. I think it just makes us stronger. But yeah, I guess if it's
purposes too, though,
right, as long as, well, as I had mentioned, it's all based on the platform resolution, so there shouldn't be any conflict. But if there is something that the caucus is in opposition to the platform, then yeah, we would have to be made aware.
I'm just proposing proposing that maybe there should be someone.
Yes.
Yeah. So there is actually. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I've seen Melody at all of our environmental caucus meetings, and I'm pretty sure she attends every caucus meeting, and all the SEC meetings. So, and she has made a point to come to us and ask what are our legislative priorities. She has been coordinating with the caucuses and with the other counties.
Okay.
Otherwise, I have my mentors.
Okay, I'm gonna turn on the screen sharing again. Here we go. Okay, and I just make sure we're on. Okay. All right. So next is thank you for that excellent report. Next is someone gonna report on the banner project. Lynn provided a report. Let me grab that report. I want to figure out how to get rid of this.
6, do you want me to report?
Yes. And I'll pull up your report. Let me just try to figure out how to get to your report here. Proposed banner project report. Okay, here it is. Yes. Okay, so yes, you can start. It starts out with well, do you have a copy of it? Is this Lorna?
Yes, I do, and I'm reading it on screen.
Oh.
And also, can people hear me, or do I just talk to you?
Oh yes, people can hear you. I've got these nice
Okay.
speakers.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to do a big shout out and mahalo to everyone who participated in the Ohana Banner Project this year. As you know, at the last meeting, we all voted to have it go ahead. And so what we did was we printed some new banners and got them framed. And at that point in time, which was about mid-October, I had to drop out because of family issues. And I spoke with Lynn Robinson Onderco to see if she would be interested in carrying it forward. And lo and behold, she was on staff with the coordinated campaign at that time, which was great because then she could fold that project into the coordinated effort. It was really fortuitous that all was going on at that time. And so Lynn then did outreach to all the region chairs and to the district chairs to see if we could get them started particularly in districts that did not have the banners already in hand. And she had a variety of responses from people. Some regions went gung-ho and did it every week. Thank you, Region 5, for an excellent job with that and had a lot of fun doing it. There were other regions that used the banner for events that were happening, stew rice events or other kinds of events that were happening in their regions, which was great. Other regions and districts just went out with a handful of people and stood on a corner and waved signs, and in the process got to know their electeds a little better because they got some of their electeds to go out with them, which was part of the goal for doing all of this. So I think there was a mixed response, mixed use of the banners, but it was a good start. And Lynn has made several suggestions, which is basically that we do more training and prep for it, that region chairs are told from the beginning that this is part of their responsibilities to do outreach to the electeds, as well as try to develop a way of working with the folks who are running for office in the general election. So I encourage you to take a look at this report. And again, mahalo to everybody who took part in it. It really, I think, was well done and well executed, particularly by Lynn. So mahalo.
All right, thank you. That was a great report. Okay, so I would really like to figure out how to close this.
And Rich, if anyone would like to email me or Lynn and Rich about their thoughts and comments and suggestions. We'd really be happy to receive them. Please think about doing that. Ways in which we can make this more uniform across the island, and ways in which we can work with district chairs and region chairs. Please email me and Lynn and Rich your suggestions. We'd really welcome them. Thanks.
All right, great. Okay, so next, I guess we should give her some sort of, people have been asking about the investigation committee reports. Do you want to say so, or should I say something? Okay, so we have to meet with the rules committee to decide, there's some issues of whether they're even, whether we even have jurisdiction. Okay, so Dr. Pugh has suggested we consult with our rules committee, we'll make a decision there. And once we decide that, then we'll either report back at that time, or we'll go ahead, whatever we decide. And there's two of them, and so I have appointed a committee, a preliminary committee. Should I go ahead and report on that, or should we wait on that?
If you want, I'm prepared to.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So should I say who the people are? Okay. So
Against.
yeah. Oh. Okay. So I thought the committees could do both. That one committee could do both. It's that.
Actually not.
Oh, you don't think so? Okay.
Complaint against, there are two complaints. Complaint against Matt Lopresti.
Yeah. Those.
People on the investigation committee for that would be Melody Aduha and Janine
Jones. Okay. Okay.
And we are going to summarily dismiss the complaint because the complaint is in two parts, and I will rely on you, Rich, to quote the language. The first part deals with an allegation of basically improper electoral conduct relating to the allegation that Matt has admitted to of basically providing election material of his opponent in the primary.
We can't hear.
Okay, purloining electoral material from the mailbox, not the mailbox, but a mail slot of.
Sorry to ask you.
Still can't hear.
I'm holding my voice.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
People are text messaging.
Taking electoral material of a campaign opponent. Now, the allegation, and go ahead, Rich, and you make the quote there because you've done it articulate.
Well, I was just trying to look it up. I need
the allegation. The allegation made by the author of the complaint is an incomplete quotation, and the problem is that
We can't hear.
Yeah. All right. You know, I'm sorry, the microphones are not good. Can you? All right. The other thing I can use, I can switch to a different microphone. Let's see if. Let me try this.
Many people want to know from the beginning, like, what were you talking
Okay, we will. I'm gonna try this microphone. Okay. Can people hear me out there? Doesn't sound like it.
We can hear you. We can't hear whoever else is speaking.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I
Alan,
can hear.
Yeah, we can hear you.
okay, Alan, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Can you hear him now?
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
Got the microphone.
It's not the microphone.
Got the microphone. Yeah, and I'm using this microphone now. I don't want to.
All right. The allegation related to something to which Matt Lopresti admitted, which was that he purloined election material of his opponent. And
The problem is that the allegation is to a violation that specifically under the party constitution is not subject to disciplinary action. However, the complaint eliminated that language from the quotation. In other words, the complaint was deceptive in that way, and it deceived not only it deceived the people who signed the complaint as complainants. It's Article 8, Section 4, ethical campaign practices. The Democratic Party, and I'll skip, shall agree to a campaign ethics code which may be based on available codes, etc., provided that any failure to abide by this section shall not be subject to Article 1 on expulsion, reprimand, or censure. The author of this complaint eliminated from his quotation the language provided that any failure to abide by this section shall not be subject to Article 1 on expulsion, reprimand, or censure. That is dishonest. And for that reason, we are summarily rejecting that complaint, that part of the complaint. The other half of the complaint dealt with an allegation that is 2 years old. Anybody who reads the disciplinary materials knows that there is a limitation period of 180 days. You cannot make a complaint as to an action that was more than 180 days prior to the date of the complaint. That too is on its face stale dated. Therefore, that other half of the complaint is not valid. Therefore, both halves of the complaint are invalid, and for that reason, we are summarily rejecting this complaint. That's complaint number 1.
I move to accept the report.
Second.
Is there any discussion? Are there any objections? All right, motion passes. All right, so good. So that gets rid of that one. So let's meet again on the second one. Has to do with, there was a complaint against a member, but it had to do with a caucus. And so we need to discuss. There's a question. Both the state chair and others have questioned whether that's really our purview. So I got to get to, yes, Alan, you have something to say about that.
Well, here's my point. This is a complaint against Michael Galoyo Jr. And the complaint is, in very quick summary, that he allegedly improperly handled the election procedures in the LGBT caucus, in which he is chair and was standing for re-election as caucus chair. And his contention is that LGBT caucus, as a party-wide caucus, cannot be, his conduct as chair of that caucus cannot be subject to disciplinary proceedings by Oahu County because we are merely a county organization and not a statewide organization. And he says that he can only be subject to discipline by the county organization. I believe that that is forum shopping on his part. I point out that back in 2012 or 2013, he had no hesitancy in bringing a disciplinary action against 6 or 7 state legislators in front of this organization, the Oahu County Committee, when those legislators had sponsored and co-sponsored legislation, anti-gay legislation, basically legislation that would,
Have reprimanded them and barred them from
yeah,
serving as Democrats.
seeking disciplinary action against state legislators for proposing this legislation that would, you know, the typical wedding cake and photography, wedding photography kind of stuff, discrimination, religious excuses for discrimination. He had no trouble bringing those claims against those legislators before this body. So it's hypocrisy on his part to now try to forum shop and say Oahu County Committee can't have jurisdiction over him when the shoe is on the other foot.
Yeah, well, yeah, that is a strong argument for why we should proceed. But on the other hand, one thing good about Michael, I think, is that he does bring these things to the forefront. I mean, he raises the questions, and just because we did something wrong in the past, once we discover, I'm just saying. I mean, that's what Robert says. But no, I mean, I agree with you. I'm just offering the other side, unless someone else wants to offer the other side. I'm just being.
The party constitution designates the county committee as the decision-making body, just as, for example, the U.S. Constitution and federal laws designate federal district courts as the courts that decide lawsuits against presidents of the United States.
Yeah.
You know, you have to go to the adjudicating body, and you know you don't get to forum shop.
Okay, so let's see.
This is Carla from House District 26. I just had a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
So if action is taken by the body today, what happens to it after?
All we're doing is
well, what'll happen is that we just we're going to do this anyway. We're going to meet with the Rules Committee, of which Daniel is in charge of, and we're going to discuss whether we do it. And I'm kind of inclined to just go ahead with it and then sort of pass it on up to the State Rules Committee. I mean, I think that's a good argument. I think Michael's argument is a good argument for the State Rules Committee to rule on if or when it gets there. What do you think?
Well, I was asked to opine.
Yes.
Okay, I had a completely different, reason for saying that it's not eligible for a disciplinary procedure is spelled out in the bylaws, section 8. And that's because the bylaws list the things that are permissive expulsion, reprimand, or censure, right? And on that list, it says violation of the Constitution or bylaws of the Democratic Party of Hawaii and or platform of the party. It does not include caucus bylaws. It does not include county bylaws. Okay, so it says the Constitution and bylaws of the Democratic Party of Hawaii. So my opinion is that if you want the disciplinary action to be appropriately made on violations of caucus or county bylaws, then you should amend that section of the bylaws to encourage it. But the standard rule of interpretation is when you list 2 things or 3 things, things that are not listed are excluded.
Even if the things you list authorize the other rules to begin with?
No, I don't see.
You wouldn't have caucus rules unless you had the state bylaws.
They allow for people to make bylaws, but this section specifically refers to the Constitution, what you can be disciplined for. So anyway, that's my opinion. So wait a second. The last part of my opinion was that since this is an interpretation issue of the bylaws, it should be decided, or should be at least another opinion given, and then the SEC will have to rule on it. And the other opinion should be from the Rules Committee of the SEC. So I recommended that the issue, after I told her what my opinion was, be referred to the Rules Committee of the SEC, and that the SEC decide whether or not it's an appropriate jurisdiction.
Oh, all right. So let me understand you then. You're saying that before we move forward, we just sort of pass it up to the SEC Rules Committee for an opinion.
Okay, I didn't.
I know.
I said
I
I didn't say anything about before you do anything. Okay, I was asked to opine on the issues, on the issue of whether or not Section 8 applies to caucus and county bylaws, and my opinion is that it does not. But it's up to the SCC.
Okay, you can ask a question. I'll make a comment. Daniel.
If I can get a second from Alan, I'd remove my motion if you don't like this. But I move to submit this question to the SEC Rules Committee prior to forming assigning it to the investigation committee.
I have a point of inquiry. I have a question.
Is that appropriate? That's in line with kind of what you said, isn't it?
Okay, a point of question can be interrupt. You can interrupt him. So yes, what is your question?
So I just want to make how I understand it, and it's more of a point of clarification. Also, is if the caucus is an organ of the state or the state party, for example, right? So their jurisdiction, I mean, they fall under the state party as opposed to the different counties. When we're doing this, what's it called? When we're doing this complaint or the complaint that has been given, why is it only in Oahu County as opposed to all the other counties that are out there? Is it because the person's from here?
Yeah, the person's from here, and also the complainant is from here. Well, they're both from here, and according to some other places in the bylaws,
the procedure.
Yeah, the procedure. It says that we
goes first to the county.
Goes first to the county.
And the reason it's going to this county in particular is because the person who's there is here.
Yes, that's correct. If the person were on Maui, then it'd be Tim Lara's problem.
There is no other complaint process than through the county.
Right.
The question I would like have submitted to SEC is whether this complaint is appropriate under the process that does exist.
Yeah. So can I just make another
Mr. Chair, this is Kainoa from House District 26. If that's a motion by Mr. Jacobs, I'll second.
Okay, sure. Go ahead. You can speak.
No, she wants a second.
Oh, let's say okay.
This is debate, then she can't speak. It has to be seconded.
Then I get to start.
He gets to be the first one.
All right. So there's a motion before us is whether we should not move on this complaint.
Yes, the motion is to refer this
directly to the state.
No.
To the Rules Committee.
For the question of is this a proper complaint?
I got it. Okay.
That can be heard by the county.
It can be heard by the county. And is that a proper? Sounds good to me. Okay, good.
Is there a second?
Is there a second? Yeah, there was. I know it's a second. Okay, so now we can debate. Does he get to speak first?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. So Daniel it's Daniel's motion. He gets to go first.
I don't think it's appropriate for the Oahu County to spend their time on any complaint, let alone one that's not valid, appropriate to our rules. So that question needs to be decided before we put resources to this county to look at a complaint.
And Ken Farm, yes, sir.
This is Ken Farm. I'm speaking in favor of the motion. Reason being for this one is because this is going to set precedents across the board. I mean, as most of our caucus leaders usually come from Oahu for the most part. So, if we set a bad precedence here for how we're going to handle this, this is going to be bad. Therefore, I think it should be in the hands of the state. It should be in the hands of the Rules Committee so that should those changes like we're also talking about need to be made, in the bylaws, I mean, that's something that we're setting a good precedence for, not just doing it on the spite.
If the SEC finds the Oahu County has jurisdiction over this, I think it's appropriate for the Oahu County to take the complaint. Okay.
All right, I've got some laugh track sounds on my phone. I was gonna try. Okay,
Further debate.
I'll do it later. Okay, is there any further debate? Yes, Sam.
Seems to me that the only jurisdiction we have is the complaint investigation, and the disciplinary decision has to shift over to the SEC.
Okay, is there any other discussion? I'd like to just make a comment. Okay, go ahead, Dylan. I was just going to make a comment, not speaking for or against, but just a comment on what would happen later on if it were to be determined that we. So go ahead, Dylan.
Well, I am in support of Daniel's motion. That said, I think like a good number of people in the room, I increasingly feel frustrated with the amount of time and the intentions behind a lot of the complaints that we're dealing with. If we spent the amount of time that we collectively are dealing with complaints on legislation or housing or getting DHHL more functional for the needs of people, then we might be seen as worth a damn in other people's eyes. And right now this is infighting.
Yeah.
And furthermore, I would have the basis to make a complaint against the chair of the Kapuna caucus at the time, Scott Foster, because I was a 2-year member of the caucus. I was on the phone call. I was excluded from voting by Cameron Sato so that a bunch of people who joined the caucus within a week could vote in their candidate for chair. Well, I have no problem with, but my point simply being that this, if it did set precedent, opens up a can of worms that I don't think the complainant intends.
Yes, Ernest, it's speaking on the topic.
Yeah,
Yes.
on the topic. I'm also in favor of that proposal, but I would suggest that we think about just dropping this totally because it was brought up to the inappropriate committee. It should have never been brought up to the wall.
Well, that's what we're going to determine. That's what the motion. That's what. Yes, go ahead, Ken.
You know, I kind of feel the same way in terms of that too as well. In the cases, however, this is setting precedents here, and we need to make sure that we're following a good process. We don't want to just pick and choose how we want to do this. As this, body that we have, this governing body that we have over Oahu, we want to make sure that we're not showing favoritism on either side, no matter what the thing. We want to show process. It's all about process. We want to follow proper process, proper procedure, and if we see that things need to be changed, as there's some possible indication that there is, then that should be changed. But we need to follow a certain guidance process right now.
James.
Yeah, I just had a question. So for the complaint, I haven't looked it over yet, but is the complaint against the member as a member capacity or in a leadership position in the party? Because I think if we're going to attack, if we're going to say the character of the member is what we're going after, it's the same thing like the Matt LaPresney complaint. He was a candidate running for office, took somebody's flyer. Okay, if someone filed a complaint.
Okay, so you're debating, but
yeah. So I'm just curious, as if
time debate. So you start off by saying, "I have a question." It won't be time. Then you should only ask a question.
Oh yeah. So my question is it? Are we going after the member in a member capacity or in a leadership role in the party?
Okay, it was against a member. It was against a member. All right. Yes, Suzanne.
Suzanne Young, District 28 Chair. I speak in favor of the motion to get clarity through the SEC for proper process. I am one of the signatories on the complaint. With due respect, Dylan, we don't file complaints frivolously. We file them because we feel the process was violated, and as a part of the Democratic Party, we should be giving due process and ensuring that all of our people have a right to participate. The complaint was against the chair in the person's role as chair regarding process.
Very good. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, again, we're debating on the issue of how to process the complaint. And the way I'm looking at our jurisdiction as a county is to investigate a complaint. And as far as the finalization of a complaint, that seems like it has to shift over to the SEC. So we have to vote for that? Or?
Well, yeah, we're going to vote whether we're going to put. I just want to comment on what happens if we don't have jurisdiction. Okay, if we don't have jurisdiction, then I believe what happens is that would mean that the county bylaws and the caucus bylaws do not say anything about discipline. If they don't say anything about discipline, and we base everything on Robert's rules, then it goes back to what Robert's rule says about discipline. So if there's a process there, but I believe it would be up to the caucus then to somehow bring charges against the chair. So it would, again, that would be, but then that would also mean that the rules committee, our county rules committee and investigation committee all of a sudden has their work cut out for them because they have to get up to speed on how discipline works in Roberts. So that's my only comment. That was not speaking for or against the motion. Is there any more discussion for or against the motion?
Yeah, Eric Schrager, District 41.
Yes.
I'm kind of curious if this body doesn't have jurisdiction to investigate this complaint, then what stops us? Where would we have jurisdiction to investigate complaints? I mean, this was a complaint validly submitted to this body. Why don't we investigate?
Well,
Why are we not
if
investigating?
if
We're saying that the member is questioning the jurisdiction of this body, and therefore we're not going to investigate.
Do you want me to answer that? 'Cause
yes,
that's
I
part
would.
of the
Yes,
answer
I would like.
gave in my opinion.
I would like Dr. Peel to answer that question.
So again, because I was asked for my opinion by the chair of the party, all right, my opinion is that, first of all, that Section 8 of the bylaws, Article 1, is not applicable. However, by the way, there's a big difference between counties and caucuses, because caucuses are creatures of the SCC. Right? If you look at where the language about caucuses is, it's in Article 5 that sets up, these are advisory to the SCC, right? So my opinion is that if somebody and we've had this in the past where there were complaints about things that were going on in caucuses, they went directly to the chair and from the chair to the SCC, right, to try to straighten them out. We had several that took place during convention, and those had to be worked out, and they were worked out by the SCC.
Right.
So I think my opinion is that because it's not clear that it is, the SCC is in charge of what's going on with the caucuses, and they get to certify a caucus or not certify a caucus.
To James's question, this goes back to James's question about is the complaint against the individual, which I believe it is, not about a caucus. This is a complaint against an individual in this body, right?
Yeah.
And so it should go through the Oahu.
Okay, gotcha.
Is that correct?
That would be the argument against the motion, but yeah, that'd be the argument against the motion. Yeah, that sounds good to me too. I don't.
I'm just saying, if there was a complaint against another member for another issue, would it not?
Yeah.
Be investigated by this.
I think if it's a violation,
not any complaint. Okay, it has to be a complaint that falls in the category that are listed in Section 8.
So it's violating state bylaws or state constitution or platform.
Right.
I think that's
pretty clearly stated.
That's the issue.
All right. Is there any? Yes, James. You have another.
I have a question.
Okay.
Are we violating any timeline, deadlines? Because you have 10 days to.
Sure. Okay. Well. Okay. If I could delay this long enough so it ends up being dismissed because we took too long, I would gladly do that. Okay, but I doubt it.
Yeah, I just don't want anyone to complain about
but
deadlines.
justice moves slowly. We don't want to. If we would have just jumped on this before I had a chance to hear this, we would have been who knows. So I'm glad we here where we are. Yes, still.
When we had complaints in 2017, I believe the process took several months, and if my understanding is correct, the timeline had to do with when the documents were received and processed and acknowledged, right? So that wouldn't change just because this was referred to the SEC, right?
Yeah,
Am I correct?
So. I think you're correct. Yeah. Okay. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none.
Unfortunately, you have to do by. First of all, is there any objection to the motion to refer?
Okay.
Otherwise, you have to do a roll call.
Okay. Is there any objection to the motion to refer this to the SCC?
Well, it's not to refer the issue to the SCC, it's
the rules
to ask
The rules
question
committee.
of
Sorry.
the rules committee.
Rules committee.
I typed it out for James. But
Okay. So is there any objection?
How about let's read it again?
I'll read it. I'll text what I texted James here. You were beautiful. Oh, that's a different thing.
Oh, yeah. Come on, keep that between us.
It's to refer the complaint to the SEC Rules Committee to determine whether the complaint is valid and subject to the procedure for complaints through the county process.
Yes, Carlos.
Just to clarify, so if this motion passes, you're referring the complaint, not just a question of jurisdiction, but the actual complaint?
No, it's jurisdiction.
Just
That
a
is
question of jurisdiction.
It's jurisdiction. But I think the Rules Committee could also find that it's not a valid complaint and that there's no violation of the bylaws, the platform,
Constitution. Or the
Constitution.
The SEC Rules Committee has flexibility to say whatever they think is.
To say whatever they think.
and then it'll go from there to the SCC.
And Eric, I just met you, but that, you said caucus rules. And the rules don't provide a disciplinary procedure for violation of the caucus rules.
Right.
So this might not be, if the complaint, which I've read, but it's been too long, only alleges a violation of the caucus rules, then arguably it's not a proper complaint because.
No, it doesn't. It's more than that.
So you get that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's all subject to the SEC's review.
What you're saying is, what we're gonna be voting on is
Motion to refer.
Motion to refer.
the motion to refer with the question of jurisdiction only. Is that correct?
Yeah, but yeah, yes, yes.
Well, then we need to change the
I think this has now become very confusing.
Okay, just if
Can I type it out?
I'd have to look at the rules to get it.
And I think we need to take another look at the complaint itself.
You can take a minute recess to clarify.
Can we just defer the complaint?
Because we're
No,
talking
talk
about the complaint, we haven't even looked at that.
Complaint.
Somebody put the complaint.
Oh, complaint. Where would that complaint be now?
It's on
Can
the
I make a
agenda
motion
to
for
allow the
recess?
county.
Okay,
Section
so there's a motion to recess.
Just
so-
for a minute.
Yeah, okay, so we're gonna recess for a minute.
Eric Allen, if you want to weigh in on this, come over here. real quick.
Everybody, there's hot coffee in here,
Yeah.
and everybody.
Oh, that's right, it's James's birthday, so there's a birthday cake for James.
James,
Yeah.
happy
Section
birthday,
eight.
bring his
That's
cake
it.
up.
Yeah,
That's
let's
it.
do that.
Is the complaint subject to section eight? Okay, okay.
Are you guys gonna line up and bring
Eric,
gifts?
Eric, is the complaint subject to section 8? Put that back up there, Rich. That's it. That's the only
No,
question.
section 8
It's
is
the only
this one.
question.
It's this.
Refer to the SEC Rules Committee to determine whether the complaint is subject to Article 1, Section 8. The only complaint process, period, in our rules. If it is subject to Section 8, then it's.
Everybody, if we can just sing happy
If it's
birthday
not,
to James.
Okay.
Section 8. It could
Chad,
be
you wanna
because it's
lead
not
this?
an appropriate,
Happy birthday to
it's not an appropriate
Yeah, we're gonna
complaint,
sing.
or that this doesn't.
Yeah, it's my sing.
Okay,
Everybody do
okay.
this.
Section
Violation of
Around.
Complain about everything.
All right, everybody, today, we're gonna celebrate James' 21.
33.
Let me explain. Sing happy birthday for James. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear James. Happy birthday to you.
So, all right, I gotta find the complaint. Do I really gotta find the
Okay,
complaint?
so
All
we're in
right,
the
okay.
Constitution that it says who goes to the So that's the question that we're asking. If it's found that that allegation is a violation of our Constitution, the SEC will find that and then we'll take it up at that time level through the process that we You're cool with that? Okay, can we write it out? Let's write it out. That's all I'm trying to get done.
I think what you have stated is pending part of what you stated, so you have to change
But
something.
here's the deal. I think if the SEC looked at this and said, look, it's not only not subject to Section 8 because there's no allegation that has met the allegations that are received by Section 8, which is a violation of the law. You may be right, but you're the violation of the law. The SEC says solely, look, this is an allegation of a violation. Our Section 8 doesn't even address that complaint process for that type of allegation. And conceivably, we could shut it all down right now and make that decision.
And would you do that without even meeting with the complainants and
We're
explaining
meeting
that,
with
hearing
right
their,
now to a degree.
no, this is not. This is
Well,
specifically the
we're not going to meet at a full OCC. I don't know when we're at, really. But you get my point. The better question, I think, is, am I wrong here? Please correct me.
First of all, I gotta say, this bylaws,
is all screwed up in the beginning. There's so many holes in it that you could drive trucks on day and night, okay? And we've had serious problems from the beginning about that. It was never intended to do caucuses. The language predates the existence of caucuses.
Right, so you can make
So-
an argument
so-
that the caucus is a part of it.
But only the
Wait,
SEC.
wait,
I like that.
There has never, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, but historically, there has never been a disciplinary charge filed for violation of county bylaws. Okay, so it's always been, all the ones I've ever seen, and, you know, I'm happy to be corrected if somebody can find out, is strictly with the state constitution bylaws platform. Those are the issues. Now, to expand that to include county, and then that should be clear, that should be clearly stated in that thing. Instead, what is clearly stated is only, it lists two things. And I'm gonna tell you again, it's even in Robert's the interpretation of bylaws, one of the basic principles to apply is to list things, is to exclude other things, not list them. So,
But I like your argument.
It was, as you said, the caucuses didn't exist when it
okay,
was drafted.
so I don't wanna get into an argument
That
over
would
this.
be-
I gave an opinion,
Yes,
and we're not gonna win anything here.
Yes,
Because
yeah.
the SEC decides on interpretation of bylaws, it's not a constitution bylaw. All issues of interpretation of the bylaws and the constitution are in the hands of the SEC. So the only way they're gonna get to the SEC for that question to be solved is the rules committee should have a shot at it first. They don't have their opinion, and then the SEC will make this but it's a serious issue, and it does set a precedent.
Yeah, and there's plenty of different decisions they can make in regards to this to determine it's not subject to hate. It's not just, well, there's all sorts of things they can do, right?
Personally, okay.
So that's
The initial issue is who has jurisdiction,
Okay.
not whether the bylaws apply or anything, who
Well,
has jurisdiction,
I gave my
whether it's
opinion to
county
the
or
SEC. I asked them my opinion about the whole issue. Somebody said that's what I agree.
So that's why I think
You're just talking about the argument that was raised by
So if a motion is to refer this to the SEC to determine whether it's subject to section 8, answers all those questions.
No, that's not, it's read your motion, it's
No, that's what I'm telling you we should take to do. The motion should be to refer this, SEC rules to determine if a complaint is subject to section 8.
the jurisdiction
What if it's not a jurisdiction?
The jurisdictional issue is not relevant.
Exactly, if it's a valid complaint.
Because bylaws clearly say that all complaints go to the county.
So then why are we talking
And
about
so you may not like that.
So why are we talking? That's my point.
That is what it says when it goes to the county, the
Why are we not?
So there's because it's possible the complaint isn't even permitted by
And
this.
then, if the
Then the
person
county
decides, if the person decides that they don't,
Walked in and
that
heard
they're
all the
appealing it, then it goes to the SEC.
discussion and
And
thought
that's where it should
stays.
stay.
Right.
And
That's
that's,
what
that's
I'm
just.
What's your argument? Go ahead.
So-
Mike is already
I
applied.
didn't make the
Mike is
motion.
already, Mike's
I
already.
just give my
Well,
opinion
He's the
on
one that
that.
questioned the jurisdiction.
I'd rather talk about this at a general
It's also-
standpoint than a specific. So the question for the SEC is to determine whether when it says the section 8 apply to caucus violations of caucus rules. That's more specific, but that's it, right? That's the question.
So, okay, just so you understand, right? That was what I told Kaylee, and I recommended to Kaylee that she refer this question to the Rules Committee, get a determination, and then go to the SEC.
No, the rules.
Because Kaylee asked me this, okay? And Kaylee is the chair, and I am the chair. So, to me, whether or not this motion is adopted by SEC, or whether today decides that it's a violation,
I think there's questions the SEC has.
Why should you just like, you just said from our process, Before you allow
The county right now decides that an allocation of versus like you're saying it's a violation of the motion, which is fine, and that way we have said Manila, we've recently become most of
The disciplinary action is meant because it deals with expulsion.
Right. But if you're not lost, and you don't know what you're doing, I mean, I know everybody knows you, but and so and me, for sure. Like that's not like what's for so that's why my relationship
that's why I like that in that direction. So why
Yes, I know. And or they can do nothing, or they can have no disciplinary language and go do what Robert Rules says, and then go get together from those classes, right? Yeah. So I, that's how I kind of. I mean, I'm glad that we had. That's kind of how I read all this stuff too. A long time ago when I was reading this, we were talking, and then I just find myself doing something like the complaint against Michael for violating county bylaws. We treated that like he was violating the state county bylaws, which we probably should have known.
My understanding of Section 8, that's like the canon. People are shooting cannons when they get out of.
Right. That's right. They shouldn't be.
The SEC should be able to deal with the election process in order.
Okay.
That's the issue.
Yeah. Okay. So
is it against the person?
So
I want to see that guy suffer.
Yeah. Can the SEC do that?
I don't see why not. That's my understanding. The SEC can do that, but that's my opinion. And that's the rules committee. The SEC has to decide.
All right. I don't think that's just.
You think referral is appropriate still? I'm sorry. Do you think referral is appropriate when you have to bring those?
Yeah. I think it's appropriate. Do that. If something out of order about it is a problem, yeah, you have every right to do that. You also have every right to decide right now that the guy violated. I don't want to do it. The caucus bylaws, and therefore we should hang him. Up by the neck until dead. We don't have a problem. What's going to happen is it's going to appeal and it's going to go to the SEC. Because there's this legitimate question.
I want to just. No, but that said, I haven't traditionally needed to arrange.
And you're going to vote against.
Suspension is a little different.
That's what it's pending. My motion. Need a roll call vote.
Okay, that's it. I like how I type it. So my motion is the way I read it out. I can amend my motion right now.
Okay, well, you can take the vote. This is about Section 8.
I'll do that.
I'm not trying to check it out.
Hey, we ready to come back? Yeah. Post the complaint. Yeah, sure, I can do that. This is it.
Okay, are we ready?
Yeah. Hold on. Oh, by the way, we are. Oh, got it. Okay, so now we've actually been recording the whole thing. That's okay. I can edit it if I want to, but
recess expired.
Not one person looked at the last one. Okay, we're back in session here. And I've shared my screen, and we are still recording. Oh wait, that's the wrong screen. I mean, that's the wrong thing. Okay, here's the complaint. Someone wanted to see the complaint. Not so sure why we got to air our dirty laundry like this, but here it is. Let's see. Failing to give. Okay, so did you want to say something about this?
I'd like to speak against the motion.
Okay, against the motion. Against Daniel's motion.
I've asked the chair to post at least some of the language of the complaint, and you'll see that the complaint does state down about the third paragraph down that the complaint does expressly state right there where the chair has the arrow. The complaint quotes from the bylaws where it says caucus bylaws shall provide for democratic selection of officers and representatives to the SCC, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In other words, the complaint itself does expressly state an allegation of violation of the state bylaws itself. And therefore, it does address the concern that the parliamentarian was saying, which is that the complaint did not seem to allege a violation of the state bylaws. It does allege a violation of the state bylaws. I don't see any reason why we should refer this to the SCC Rules Committee for either an opinion or giving it to the SCC Rules Committee or the SEC at this point. I think we should deal with it in due course, and the respondent can raise his jurisdictional issues as part of the process, and if the decision goes against him at the county level, he can appeal it to the SCC and raise the jurisdictional issues there as well. So I'm going to vote against the motion, and I urge everybody else to.
So I'll wrap it up if we can.
Well, no. Is there any other comments for or against? Yes, Suzanne.
House District 28 Chair Suzanne Young. I withdraw my support for the motion because the motion is no longer about jurisdictional issues. And I agree with Alan Burdick that the jurisdiction does lie for disciplining a member with the county. And so I speak against the motion.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak for or against the motion?
I'll speak for it real quick.
Okay.
So just to clarify, after the discussions we had when we went into recess, with no objection for those who want to vote for it, I'll amend it. Is the complaint subject to Section 8? That's the sole question for the FCC to look at. I don't care if you guys want to vote against it today, but I will tell you, it sounds like if we do go through the county process, we're going to do a lot of work. We're going to have that OCC meeting, and it's going to be horrible. We're all going to sit here and have to adopt or not adopt the investigative committee's report. It's going to take a lot of time. I mean, then it's going to go up to the FCC, and they could just swipe the rug from out underneath us. So we can front load and have all these discussions without knowing whether or not the FCC in the end will find out it's a valid complaint or not. Or we can go see that the FCC is going to find that it's a valid complaint subject to Section 8, and then we can go through the mess that will follow thereafter that we know will be upheld in the end by the FCC. So without friendly, no objection, the referral is, the motion is to refer the complaint to see if it's subject to Section 8 of our state bylaws. That's it.
Merely an inquiry.
Yeah, merely an inquiry.
So you just changed your motion.
After I told you guys I was going to do that. Yeah, unless there's, I'll tell you what, to help through the process here, I don't know what's appropriate, but I'll withdraw my motion and file a new one so I can get my second, if that will make you happy. I want to refer this to the FCC on the question of whether is this complaint subject to the Section 8 process? Yes or no? That's
the objection to his amendment.
Any objection to my amendment?
No. Second.
Oh, Okay, is there any
Are we still
objection?
debating?
Oh,
Yeah.
no, what, no, he's,
I would feel more comfortable if it said, instead of refer this complaint, if it just said, ask a.
Refer a question.
Refer the
or
question,
refer an
whether,
inquiry.
refer, whether the question is, whether the complaint is subject to section 8, yes or no? That's the question we're asking the SEC. That's what we're referring, yes. They're not going to take up the complaint and decide it.
And be clear that 8 does not deal with jurisdiction.
Well, it kind of does. I mean, that's,
We're not giving the state jurisdiction.
we're not giving them jurisdiction to hear the complaint, but if they, for whatever reason, found that it's not subject to section 8, they could make that decision on a lot of different grounds.
okay, first, not Phil.
Eric.
Eric, yeah,
Eric
Eric
Schrager.
Schrager.
I would just like to say, your statement about us not wanting to go through this process because it's too much trouble, or it's going to be too much work. The reason we're here, the reason this complaint was filed, is because several members feel that there was a serious violation, that the democratic process was undermined in an attempt to try to sway the results of an election, which ironically probably would have had no effect.
That's not what I said.
Will you please don't interrupt me?
Okay, that's not what I said.
Thank you. In this case, there was a complaint made about the democratic process. People thought that there was disenfranchisement going on for a very important vote for a caucus that members wanted to participate in, that, and they were not able to do that simply because they physically are not located on Oahu. There are members of the LGBT caucus on other islands that all along there was no way for them to participate in this election. And to switch the location of the election for that specific meeting, for that specific purpose, seems suspect. Now, this body is, the Rules Committee of this body has full jurisdiction and full ability to go ahead and look at this question from the Oahu County position. So I see no reason to make any motion or refer this to anybody other than the Oahu County.
Okay, Aaron, then Ken, then.
I'm speaking on his amendment.
Yeah, and you're speaking on his amendment to, yes. Okay, so Aaron?
I think the
We're still debating whether or not.
Is there a motion on the floor?
Yes. Yeah, let's figure out what the motion on the floor is, please.
Yeah,
Do we have to
no,
vote?
the secretary is the one that tells us.
You're amending your
Yes.
previous.
But that was a friendly amendment. There's no objection to my friendly amendment.
But there is an objection.
Do you object? Can you not object to the friendly amendment and then just vote?
No, I do object
No.
to the amendment.
You vote no against my motion in the end, but right now I want to friendly amend it.
We're
So
still debating the original.
no, we're not. Right now we're on the amendment.
we're
So just
actually-
accept my amendment and then vote against it in the end. That's how to handle this.
That's fine.
I just
Okay.
need.
Okay.
I
So
need
is
to
there
know-
any objection to my friendly amendment?
Yeah, there is. We got to quickly settle that. Do you have something? Go ahead. Person
Yeah, is there any way that we can kind of put that, we don't need that black front screen, at least something that we can put up on there so everybody can see exactly what that motion is?
Yes, so
we are
did
all-
someone write it down and send it to me?
Can I type it on your fancy?
I need the language is all I'm asking.
Is-
You're amending it. By
Is the
adding-
FCC, or is the complaint subject to Article 8 or Section 8?
Is the complaint?
Refer the question to the SEC's Rule Committee. Is the complaint subject to Section 8?
Article 1.
Article 1, Section 8.
Am I?
So Eric, that's my friend. That's what I want the motion to be. You want to vote against all of it. So don't object to my friendly amendment to my motion and then vote against it in the end.
All right, can you say
I'm
it
not
again?
pulling any fast ones here. I don't give a shit about any of this. I mean,
I just don't understand why, as the OCC Rules Committee Chair, why you can't just get on the phone and ask.
because I don't interpret the SEC bylaws. I interpret the Oahu County bylaws, which we're not playing with here.
Yeah, the debate should, so we're debating the amendment, and are there any objections to his amendment? His amendment, which is to reduce it to just asking the SEC whether we have jurisdiction.
No, as the language, is the complaint subject?
Is the complaint
It's an issue.
Subject to Section 8.
subject
Article 1,
to
Section
Article
8.
1, Section 8
Of the bylaws, party bylaws.
of the DPH. That's the motion. Is the complaint?
If you accept his amendment, that's the motion.
So is there any objection against my friendly amendment to my motion?
Substitute motion.
No. So now we're back to that now.
So we're done to this. We're back to this. Is the complaint subject to article? So we are asking, or we're gonna. So we are gonna ask. The motion is to send this question to the SEC and wait to come. The motion is to yes.
Give it to Carlos.
Can I just make a friendly suggestion on
Yeah.
here? Is that just specifically state that this is a point of inquiry and not that I don't want them to just yank the complaint away and say, oh.
If they
but
find
just-
that it's
but-
not subject to Section 8, I think our hands are tied.
Well, then that's where it is.
Well, then they're going to do that at the end of.
They're
Without,
going to do it.
We're going to do it
That's if-
anyway,
that's
and
if
they're
it's-
going to find
that's
out
if
at
we
the end.
vote to refer it. Otherwise, we're going to rule on it.
But then he's going to appeal to the
It's gonna
SEC,
go
and
appeal.
at that point, they can find that it's not subject.
That's your guess, though.
I'm
You're
sure if
guessing.
he found against him, he would appeal it to the SEC.
Yes.
I don't think that's a
And
strong
but you're,
guess.
but you're saying that would kill it.
I don't know what's going to happen. That's why
You
I'd
just said
rather ask them first
He
and
hasn't said
later.
anything like that. He just said it's like if the SEC, it's best to find out beforehand whether this is
When
subject.
he's done, then
That's right.
Suzanne. Then I'll.
Question.
Oh,
Do
you have a
need to
question?
say, ask the FCC Rules Committee?
Yes.
Yeah.
Rules Committee.
Can we change that?
SCC Rules Committee, if this complaint is subject to Article 1, Section 8 of the DPH bylaws. Okay, Suzanne, you had something.
That was the same thing that I was going to say. The rules committee, not the SEC.
Yeah, okay, very good. If somebody else want to say something? You want to say something?
I'm just, I'm gonna speak in, can I speak in favor of this? Just
Of this motion?
of this motion, and the reason being is because we don't have any past, I even use the term case. We don't have any past case to look at. There's no jurisprudence from previous. So what we said here is what's going to happen later on, because I also, just point of personal privilege here that we took notice of what's copious notes of what's going on, because this will happen probably again and again and again.
If somebody knows, do I need to?
Point of order, someone is speaking into the phone really loudly.
That's a ghost.
Somebody's drowning.
All night long.
From the or slipped in the bathtub.
Okay, everyone's muted.
They got the new iWatch. They'll call
So
that
let
on.
me say that if you Chair.
All right, so let's move forward.
Yeah.
More issues.
All right, go ahead, Dylan.
I just have a point of information, which is to clarify this because it's been dragged out. This is about the routing of the process, not the validity of the process. Is that a correct question? And is that true? Because it seems like people are worried that we're calling the validity of the complaint into question. And I think we're talking purely about how the complaint is routed.
That's not what we're doing now. Because if we're asking the Rules Committee to rule on this, we're talking about whether the actual complaint is subject to violation of Section 8 of the DPH bylaw. So it
Rules
is
Committee
not a
does not
routing
rule.
issue. It's actually substantive.
The
to
chair
this
rules?
But we're asking if this
By the way,
complaint is subject.
Clarification.
Okay, hold on, clarification. Bill's got it.
The Rules Committee does not rule. Okay, the Rules Committee is advisory to the SCC. So they will come out with an opinion. The SCC will take it up and accept the opinion or not. The questions of interpretation of the bylaws by our state party bylaws are in the hands of the SCC. And the Rules Committee will take it up first, and then they will make a recommendation, and then the SCC will debate and vote. That's the process.
Okay, Alan.
I'm going to speak against this motion anyway, because it's conceding a point that, again, this is an argument for Michael to make in these proceedings. We're already, first of all, this still needs to be refined to say render an opinion, an advisory opinion back to this body.
Is that non-substantive?
and not to the SCC.
Advisory opinion.
That's kind of interesting.
That is interesting.
That means that if they come up with an opinion, you don't want them to share it with the SEC.
I think you're
They can let
confusing the issue.
SCC know,
Yeah.
but it's
We're the ones
an
making the
opinion
inquiry.
to us, for us to know, for us to act upon. And if that's not what's going to happen, then we need to know that before we send it to them in the first place, if you vote in favor. But I think this is a dangerous thing, because I bet you if we send it to the SCC Rules Committee, we'll never see this complaint again. And it's basically giving it away. And I say no. It is within our jurisdiction to respond. It's our responsibility, and I agree with what Eric is saying. It's our duty. People have come to us saying democratic rights have been violated, and it's our job. Unpleasant though it may be. Yeah, it's been hell dealing with complaint after complaint after complaint. That's why we have trouble getting people to run for office in, for elective office for Oahu County Committee positions. It has been this way for the last 2 years, because half of our time here at Oahu County Committee has been consumed with complaints, right, left, and center, all sorts. And it is a very unpleasant situation, and will continue to be probably for a long time. But it is our duty to do that. And we can't just shirk it and say, oh no, that guy is being pushing back too hard. We'll just have to give up because it's been too unpleasant. We want to get away from the unpleasantry, so we'll just give up on this one and we'll try to make nice. No, this is our job. We have a situation where we have a bunch of people who are saying democratic rights have been violated. This is our job, and with all due respect to the man who forgets more parliamentary stuff in the morning than I'll ever learn, I disagree on this one. And I think an allegation of a bylaw violation, of important violations, has been made in this case. We don't have to ask this question. It's been answered already. And it's up to, it's now before an investigation, it's right for an investigator to determine whether or not a legitimate allegation has been made, whether the respondent did indeed violate as alleged in the complaint or not. And he can answer. You should answer on the facts and not and not argue.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Chair. Mr.
First,
Chair, this is kind of House District 26.
Okay, first.
I might be able to say something.
Okay, first Ken Farm, then Kainoa. Ken.
Okay, so first I have
Okie dokie.
a question. The question is, had this not been a caucus, issue that happened in a caucus, but happened at like a district chair level, that would just be fairly axiomatic in terms of where the authority would be, right? Right? We all can agree upon that, right? Because of the fact that this is a caucus, there is some questioning that's going to go on. And I think, like I said, the process must go through where we must get a proper, where this, where the line is drawn in terms of the jurisdiction. Furthermore, I do agree with Alan when he's saying that we are being consumed by a lot of these, types of complaints. It is true. But also the other part too, where I have to disagree on, is that if it goes into the SEC, then it's never going to see the light of day. That's questioning the authority of the integrity of the SEC Rules Committee. So I think, it's upon us, if this does pass through, that we stay on the SEC, and, the people who are on the SEC that are from here, work with, or try to, always keep it to the forefront of the SEC rules, that this we need a position on this, or we need to, not just forget about it, table it forever.
Okay, Kainoa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just 3 things. One, I just wanted to note that Carlos Santana, SCC co-chair for the Rules Committee, is sitting in on this meeting today. So I think everyone's concerns about whether or not they will take this as a referral on, whether it's a procedural issue or an actual ruling on it. It's been heard, and I'm sure Carlos will relay it to his co-chair and take the will of the OCC into account. Two, I agree with Alan and Eric as relates to this is our job. I think for me, the reason I'm going to vote up on it is mostly because I would like a clear and concise direction on how to handle the complaint. Whether the OCC handles it or the FCC handles it, I want to be sure that we are honoring both the complainant and the accused, because we need to make sure that whatever happens is a fair process. Three, I think everyone's raised great points all the way around, and I'd like to call for the question.
It's got to be 2/3. 2/3 people want to. Okay. Is there a second? Is there a second? Okay.
Call for the question.
Are you second?
Is
Okay.
there any objection to ending debate and voting now?
Okay. So is there any objection to ending debate and voting now?
Because if there is, then you have to do a roll call vote.
Okay, there is not. Did you have a?
I just had a question.
Okay.
This is Natalia, Region 9. If the SEC decides that it is the SEC's job, would that go to the Rules Committee of the SEC?
Well, it first goes to the Rules Committee. They give an opinion to the entire SEC, and then the SEC decides. Now, the SEC, if they decide that we don't have jurisdiction, then there's things the SEC can do. They're not necessarily going to just say, oh, well, that's it.
No, would it go to the whole SEC though? Or
Yeah, yes. Would it go to? I think it would go to the whole SEC. After yes, it would. Yeah. So you get a chance to vote again.
So I vote on this either way.
Yes.
You keep referring to the words jurisdiction, and that was removed. That was amended out of the motion, and that it is not. It is related to Article 1, Section 8. If it's a viable complaint against the bylaws, 1. And second, the motion says render an advisory opinion back to the OCC. So the Rules Committee, we're asking for an opinion from them to us. Not an action by the Rules Committee and the SEC. We're specifically asking for the Rules Committee to give OCC an opinion. So I just want everybody to be really clear on what you're voting on.
Very good. That's a very good point. Okay, so are there any questions now? So we're done with debate. Are we debating or are we?
First of all, there is a motion. There is a motion to end debate. Okay, and so if there is no objection, then end debate. If there is an objection, it'll be a roll call vote and it'll require 2/3 to end debate.
To end debate. So that's what the motion is right now. To end
That's
debate.
a pending motion.
Pending motion to end debate.
Yeah. We had to rely on the Rules Committee to make a decision. When the
The question is only about ending debate.
Yeah. That would have been a good thing to say.
parliamentary role. Is to make
That would have been.
Which, by the way, is not debatable.
Sorry. Oh, no, I'm just trying to figure out. We're arguing over this Rule Committee, making a decision when the parliamentary role has to decide that.
Okay, but now the question comes up to where we got to do a 2/3 vote.
Yeah.
Whether
Is
to
there
end
an
debate.
objection to ending debate? I didn't see clear.
Yeah.
Is there any clearly who's objecting?
Is there objection to ending
Yes,
debate?
she's objecting.
Yes. Okay. So now we have to vote, right?
Yeah.
We have to vote first. Okay.
Does it have to be a roll call?
No, it has to be a roll call
It has to be a roll call
there's
because you have
people out there. Yeah.
teleconference.
Okay. So, huh? You withdraw. Well.
Draw your objection.
I just wanted to hear what he has to say, and it seemed like he had something that was important that he wanted to share.
All right. Now, are there any further objections?
Are there any? Well,
Is there any objection?
Are there any objections to our
Ending debate.
ending debate? Okay, so we have ended debate. Now I ask if there's any objection to the motion.
To refer. Probably there is. Yes. Now
Okay,
we
there
have-
is. Okay, now
This is a majority.
and this is a majority only vote. So I guess James is going to do. Someone's got to count. Who's the,
Well,
someone?
no, you have to write down every vote. It goes in the
Write down
minutes.
every vote. It does,
You
okay,
got it, James? I got to put it in the comments section. You got it?
He can record them.
okay. Okay, all right, so. Go through
The
it.
whole list, yeah, in case anyone.
Yeah, but, yeah, except me, You don't ask me unless there's a.
Corey Rosette, Lynn Sager, Betty Vega, Bill South.
They know they're supposed to
Yeah, I didn't
vote. Do they know?
Hey, do you guys out there know you're supposed to vote?
They're
When he
not-
calls your
I
name,
think he's normally calling the people who are present.
Yeah,
Well, but if someone walked in or they're on the phone, I don't know.
When your name is called, vote yes if you want to refer, vote no if you don't want to refer.
Yes. So go back. Bill South, Jesse Palmer, Melissa Von Vorst, Benjamin Gates, Mark Early, Mike Golia.
Yes.
Eric Schrager. Richard Oshiro.
Yes.
Daniel Bass. Danielle. Trish LaChica. Cindy Avon. Hio Takayama. Lorna Strand.
Yes.
District 31. Debbie Shimizu.
You're putting us on the roll.
We're just taking a note.
You're not putting- Everybody should be able to see what the votes are as they're made. And then, are you putting them on? the
Yeah, it's on the
spreadsheet?
roll. So if they go to the
Okay, so I'm asking Richard to put up.
Oh yeah, yeah. Ernesto Ganadin. Ernest Carvalho.
Yes.
Susan Young. Oh my bad. Dan Curran.
No.
Kaino Orego.
Yes.
Morgan Bonnet. Ian Ross. Mark Tom.
He just left.
Wait, Kaino, did you get Kaino?
Yes. Janine Jones.
Yes.
Emmanuel Zabakalam. Will Karen. John Choi. Cynthia Gerald. Nick Kropaski. Natalia Burdick.
No.
Rich Medeiros.
Yes.
Sam Potassi.
Abstain.
Oh. Layla Ma. Brent Toyama.
Yes.
Ben Park. Ken Farm. Kat Kogel.
Yes.
Don.
How do you? Yes.
Alan.
No.
Oh, this guy. All right. Juanita Kawamoto.
Yes.
Aaron Fernandez. Taksang Chang.
He's not here.
Daniel Jacob.
Yes.
James Love. Yeah, sure. Dylan Armstrong.
Yes.
Rich Halverson.
Hey, you're gonna have to call me. All right, it does look like it looks like it passed, right?
Well, you have to do more than that.
You have to-
Give it all, all right, give it all.
That's the vote has to,
One,
with
two,
abstentions,
Counted
has to
about
be more than 18.
4, 5, 6, 9,
Ooh, that's
What is the
close then.
total?
I was kind of guesstimating.
I thought it was 26.
18 is quorum, so the total votes, including abstentions, have to equal 18.
Oh, the abstentions would have made it erased.
Otherwise, there's no quorum.
15
Just
is,
waste
is 1,
Your
2,
turn.
3, 4,
Second that
I'm waiting
one.
for that.
What happened?
There's no quorum.
5 no's.
No quorum?
Yeah, well, 15 yeses, 5 no's, so we have, and then we had a couple of abstentions too.
Quorum is
Oh,
32%.
okay, so that motion passes. So we will send us. So what should I do? I do it? But wait, by the way, so Carlos, are you thinking about this right now? You gotta start thinking about it. Okay. All right.
What say
Okay.
you, Carlos?
Okay, so unless you want to give us an answer right now.
We need something to do until.
Yeah, the committee should deliberate.
Okay, yes, the committee should do it. Yes, Suzanne, yes.
You know, everybody, I know it's the holidays and we don't like doing this stuff, but all the comments that are being made about, oh, well, it's gonna stretch into 2020, oh, we need something to do.
Yeah, it will.
That's really disrespectful. It really is. You may not be the complainant, but think about if you were the complainant and how you would feel about how your complaint was being put forward, as well as whether or not you feel you're even gonna get a fair shake. So just be cautious of how you speak in these meetings, really. I mean, we are the complainants and we've had to listen to all of this. So be respectful, please.
Ken.
Just want, I know we passed this not resolution, but this motion over here, but there should be with a proviso that we actually stay on top of it. That the OCC doesn't just, let it go, but I'm saying, but I'm sorry, but I mean, just please comment, but I mean, just something that we just stay on top of it, even if it's not written on there, I think we should still stay on top of it. I also, as a member of the SEC, will, do my best part of it too, and I encourage other members who are members of this body as well as the SEC to do the same.
I think if it took too long, we can take matters back into our own hands, and I support that.
I would support that too. That if it drags on,
yeah.
Let's say, you know what, this should be able to be resolved by the next meeting. If it's not resolved by the next meeting, we get the
We'll
jurisdiction.
deal with that if it doesn't come.
No, that's not fair.
Yeah, that's
Never
not-
bring it apart.
All right. So thank you for that excellent report, Alan. All right, so
Is there a motion there?
no.
So I'd like to make a motion that we do that. We state that we have not heard determination from the SEC prior to the next meeting.
I'll second
I'll second it too. Can you give us a date? Let's make it specific so we don't have to.
December 22nd.
Hey, Carlos, can you weigh in on this? I mean, what do you think is
Because
unfair?
it's the holiday season, so let's take it to January.
Our next meeting is December 22nd.
The motion first. No, the next general meeting.
January.
He just made it. He's making it.
Well, no, then we're amending it now. So then we have to vote on the amendment.
No,
It's a separate motion.
We're still discussing on here. I think what he's making, he's just for point of clarification on basically what I said is that if this is not, the motion is that if we do not hear from the Rules Committee by the next general meeting of the OCC, that we take jurisdiction, that we will
Take
act.
it up at the next SEC,
Yeah, we will act.
at the January.
We will take jurisdiction back.
No.
Well, we haven't
we're not-
ceded jurisdiction.
Exactly.
That's not the question.
We haven't
So
ceded
we'll-
jurisdiction.
Yeah, we haven't
We will act.
We will act.
Okay.
Is that fair?
All right. That sounds good. Should I write that down, or do we all know what it is? If we don't hear back till when?
We should write it down.
James, you're-
Yeah, let's James say.
It's
so easy for you guys to throw like 1,000 different ways of saying something. I gotta sit here and try to
Or
figure out
no way at all.
what you
really.
guys want to
No
talk
way at
about.
all.
Good job, James.
Okay, so it's not that. It's
Is that for any?
the secretary has a right to ask for any motion in writing. Okay, so what's we need to, yes.
So Chair, Juanita Brown Kawamoto, CCSCC female rep. Just want to make sure we're clear that when we're making this motion and the timeline we're putting it on, is that it will also take into account that we have to refer this to the Rules Committee, and then the Rules Committee, SEC Rules Committee has to refer it back to the SEC.
No. That wasn't our motion.
Okay, so this will not be going to the SEC.
We asked the Rules Committee to respond to us on our motion,
I see.
not the SEC.
Is that within our bylaws to do so?
We are not ceding jurisdiction of this
just
complaint to
asking.
the SEC.
We're just asking.
We're asking, it's a point of inquiry, whether it's
Official.
Article 1, Section 8 applies to this specific complaint. We're asking for an advisory opinion. Now the motion that's on the floor right now is that if we don't hear from them by the next general meeting of the Oahu County Committee, that we will act.
January.
Like the third.
Mr. Chair,
Fourth week, January. Yes.
as the accused, I'd like a copy of this entire recording be sent to me.
All right. Okay.
That's available.
All right.
Will I get that, please?
Maybe secretary.
What do you say?
Can you you want a copy of this recording?
Yeah, it's available.
Yeah, it'll be there. It'll be online. All you gotta do is go look at the agenda page. I noticed absolutely no one looked at the last month's recording, but that wasn't very interesting. But this one's going to be more interesting. So I'll put it up. I'll put it up.
Well, everybody, and you all have a good time.
Hey, Michael, we're charging you for access to that.
No, Michael, you can have access for free. All right. So we are in the middle of voting on a motion.
The motion that he made in here is that, given that we have referred this for an advisory opinion to the Rules Committee, that if we do not hear from the Rules Committee by the next regularly scheduled meeting, general meeting of the Oahu County Committee, that the committee will proceed.
All right.
We are not ceding jurisdiction.
Okay. And it's been seconded.
Second.
Is there any objection?
Are there any objections to this motion? Hearing none, motion passes. All right. Now we are moving right along here. Yes? Did somebody out there have something to say? Guess not. All right. So new business. As you know, our assistant secretary, our assistant treasurer has left us, family problems, and I've appointed Aaron Fernandez as assistant treasurer. I'm wondering if there's any objections to that. Okay, very good. Well, congratulations, Fernandez. Here? She's here. Okay, great. And Leigh Learmont as Region 6 chair. All right, very good. No objections. And I'm appointing Dylan Armstrong and Aaron Fernandez co-chairs of the Oahu County Convention. All right. And we have to have a meeting soon. Very soon. Very soon. Yes, Alan.
Okay, in amongst there, we need to not miss the deadline. Martin Luther King Day is coming up soon. We need to have a trolley reserved ASAP, or we'll blow it as.
See, I asked someone to do that. Who did I ask to do that? Did you do it?
I'm doing it for the Connie Christmas parade.
Oh,
so
oops,
actually,
okay.
I can contact the same guy.
Yeah, can you do that? I see. I get those two mixed up. So
Yeah.
can you do that
I'll
too?
do both.
Thank you.
And I do want to mention something about that. I don't know if now is a good time.
We are. I guess we're into announcements. So.
Perfect.
Sure.
So
Go ahead.
Connie Christmas parade is next Saturday, December 1st. We're going to be lining up at 8 a.m. I'm going to send out an email. I'm actually, so to be completely honest with everybody, I went on a trip and I forgot about it, and I came back and it was past the deadline. So I asked them if we could still get in, and they were like, I think so. We're having a meeting. So I guess they're having a meeting this weekend to decide. Apparently, they used to do this all written out by hand, all the entries in the parade, so it was really hard to squeeze somebody else in there. But now they've switched to an Excel-based system, so it should be really easy to just pop us right in there. I'm also in contact with the trolley guys, and as soon as I have the real clear everything confirmed, I will send out an email to the entire Oahu County inviting everybody. We're going to be lining up at the Windward Mall, 8 a.m. It's like every other year. Dress in your holiday finest, and we'll have lots of fun.
All right.
Oh, and sorry.
What day was that again?
Saturday, December 1st.
Next Saturday.
Thank you.
And I want 8 a.m. at Windward Mall. So once we get our lineup position, they will tell us where to go. I'm gonna send it out all the information in an email. Usually, yeah, Haiku Road. Well, if we have a trolley, it'll be.
By Windward Mall, right?
Yeah.
Any other?
Oh, there's one more thing I want to mention on that.
Okay. Melody's got a few announcements, and when you think of it, you can bring it back to you. So did you have
Just a quick note, somebody should be sending a note of thanks to Myra for her many years of service.
Okay, who wants to do? You want to
It
do
was that I need a large check for the trolley.
Oh yeah, sure. I didn't bring the. Okay, I guess I'm the. Oh, you can write checks too.
Give me checks and I'll write.
I will.
I'll
I didn't bring my checkbook. Yeah, I'll.
And I wanted to use Ohana, the We Are Ohana Vote Democrat banner on one of the sides of the trolley.
Okay, we'll have to find
It
those.
is a good idea. We have one in our.
Oh, good, good. Carlos, yes.
Question about on your link, you have the proposed standing rules for the convention.
Oh, yes.
But it's not on the agenda. You intending to take that up today? Or?
Well, I actually put that up last meeting and asked for opinions. They're going to have to be approved at the January meeting. We can't do it now, but yeah, you saw it, and so it has to be done in January, and that's the timing is right. Last year we were off a month, and we ended up trying to do it 1 month, and we had to wait 2 more months after. But right now we have to do it by January. You have to do it January. Do you have a copy, Eric? Do you have a? Okay. Melody had some announcements.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I forgot to mention during my report, I also wanted to report about the legislation committee of the SEC. And I wanted to let you know which are the legislative priorities that have been approved at the last SEC meeting. So it was down to 3 tiers. First tier, minimum wage $15 per hour. So, and the next would be increased funding for public education. The third one, which is my darling, is cannabis legalization. So hopefully for public education. Tier 2, collective bargaining for graduate students, Veterans Court, expanding Veterans Court, neighbor island video conferencing so they can participate in the legislative process. And again, another one of my darlings, single payer healthcare. That's tier 2. Tier 3, yes, Alan's darling too. Okay, tier 3, mental health services, making that available, and bail reform and publicly funded election. So that has all been approved by the SEC. That is what the legislation committee will be concentrating on this coming session. Okay, and I just want to reiterate one more time, next week, Friday here, Red Hill, 6 to 8. December 6th, Thursday, Patsy Mink, 7 to 9. And finally, Thursday, December 20th, is the Huhunua. Life of the Land will be here, Henry Curtis and Lance Collins. So thank you, and I hope to see you all and share you too.
Very good.
Oh, thank you.
That's such an amazing thing. Is there a way that we can message that to the public? Like, how can we get that out to the private party? This is what we're going to do.
Well, we have our report. I guess I could send it
How
to
does
you.
it go? Like, put that out on Facebook somewhere? Like,
District chair meetings, district meetings would be the way to disseminate that information to the party. I guess.
That's
That's a good point.
So maybe like a mailer or something, or email that goes out to all members.
Yes, yes, I will relate that to the chair of the SEC legislature. Two chairs. Yeah.
Are there
Thank you.
any other announcements? Hearing none, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Would you like to join us?
I like how we just bullshit.
You've been listening to